to another episode of the Misfits of Real Estate. We've got your two biggest misfits in the house, myself and Matt Druin. And today we've got the pleasure of welcoming Kent Kiess, author and real estate mogul. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Hey, Kent, how are you?
Fantastic, everybody. Great to see you, and thanks for having me on. And could you say that one more time? I love the Misfits, actually, but the part where you said best-selling author, I just can't get used to that
right.
yet.
That's right. Yep. So I met Kent over at the Raise Fest, and he had a copy of his book, which I got from him, and I got him to sign it. So I've got that sitting on my shelf. I've finished it, and I've passed it off to one of my colleagues who's reading it now. And Matt, if you want the copy when he's done, I'm happy to get it over to you. Really great stuff.
Well, you don't have to pass it over to me, man. Let's give Kent some love, man. And what's your desired platform of purchase to help you out?
It's on Amazon right now, so that's where pretty much you can go to it. And then we're still working on kind of getting some other things involved with it, but it was actually, honestly, I didn't know it was going to do this well. So I mean, so shocking.
No, it's awesome.
So, yeah, I guess before we should definitely talk. Mark, what do you want to do? Let's talk about a little bit about the book, and then go into the bio. Now that we're on the subject of the book, like tell us about the book and who's it for, and all that stuff, and we'll go into your origin story.
It's what it's pretty much focused on is blue collar workers. And like you said, we'll get into that's kind of where my story comes from. It's what the book's about, the story, understanding that the biggest thing is the generational traditions and how they're good and sometimes they're bad. It's just kind of picking out which ones will really be helpful down the road. And I really wanted people to know that, yes, we all have been told work our butts off and everything will be fine. Well, we know it doesn't work out most of the time. Right. And there's still other things that are involved with that. So the book is basically blue collars and to help them understand how to make money while they sleep and what investments there's more than investing than just the stock market out there.
Absolutely.
So I guess
go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead. I'm going to be Johnny Carson now. So, all right. So, Ken, yeah. What was your why behind the book, and tell us your origin story, kind of leading up to it. By the way, what's the title of the book?
Beyond the Tool Belt.
Beyond the Tool Belt, aptly named. Yeah. So, tell us about your origin story and kind of like your why leading up to. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to write a book, so you have to have a really, really strong reason as to why. So tell us about that.
The why is my story, and what I just mentioned, that not necessarily struggles, but I want people to understand that, like I mentioned, there's so much more out there that people can do that they don't understand, that they're not necessarily not educated. They just haven't heard it. They don't, they go through the generational traditions, the basic, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to work, come home at 5, fix dinner, watch TV, go to bed. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's 90, the 90-10, that's 90% of everybody. And I want my why, obviously my why is my family, my kids, my wife. But the other part of that why is getting to others understand that you don't have to work so freaking hard to get where others are at. And that's the biggest reason. It's just to get people out there to understand that they don't have to. And I've seen it. I've been through it. I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, it's just getting people to understand that, get outside that box and, look at different ways that you can do things, and don't be afraid to do it. Make the jump.
Yeah. So when did you put down the tool belt?
it's the great part of that story is several times actually.
Mhm.
And it was failures that got me to the next point.
Yeah.
And the book talks about a brief part of when I was growing up, and I was born with a hammer in my hand. My dad was in construction, more or less. He had a construction concrete business. And at 10 years old, he'd get me up in the morning in the summertime and say, "Let's go to work, son." And it was awesome. It was great. I loved it, enjoyed it.
Mhm.
And did that for many years. And, obviously, me being the oldest of the family, I was going to be taking care of the business, taking over it, and making it a family affair. And didn't happen that way. There's peaks and valleys and everything, and construction is one of the especially back then during that time. And I got caught in a valley, and I didn't know. I knew how to work hard. I worked hard. I knew all that aspect of it. I understood that part of it, but what I didn't understand was the business. And at that time, I didn't know that you should be having your money work for you instead of you working for your money. And when somebody told me that several years ago, oh my gosh, I mean, it was like, are you kidding me? How do you do that? And then when they explained it, I'm like, really? That's it? so that part of it, I put my when we ended up having to sell the business, and I went into became a concrete finisher and a bricklayer, mason. Loved doing that, but I worked for another company. At the time, I wasn't going to ever have a business my own again because I didn't want to. So did that for several years, and finally, usually you got where I come from, the Midwest of Ohio, northwest corner of Ohio, cold in the wintertime. It's pretty hard to lay brick and concrete during those times. So I get laid off in the winter, and I did other odd jobs. But anyways, ended up packing up my truck, and as they say, as Matt would probably know this, I packed up my truck and moved to Beverly. So, I got out here to Southern California, where we reside now. And this was, probably 35 years ago. And had a construction job, was laying block on the freeways, and 2 weeks later got laid off. And here I am in Southern California with absolutely nothing. Failure again. To me that, so got out of construction completely. So dropped my belt again. Wasn't ever going to do construction again. Did some other things. In the process, I wanted to go to school, get my degree in teaching, and coaching was a big thing. I wanted to coach basketball. I did that, got my degree, met my wife at Cal State Fullerton. While we were doing that, I coached at Cal State Fullerton for a couple of years in basketball, and then we got into the teaching. Then I went into the teaching component and did that. So I still and then I still had my tool belt was kind of on the side for little things, but didn't realize that flipping houses at the time was actually where people could make money. And that's where my wife and I did really well with doing that for some years we did that. So.
Yeah, that seems to be a common path. I've flipped a few houses. I'm sure Matt's flipped a few houses. How did you transition from, getting into real estate with a little bit of flipping, taste of a little bit of profit, into more of making your money work for you?
Like I mentioned, at that time, I didn't understand the money side of how the money is making. I mean, it was making money for us because we would buy the house, we live in it in a few years, for 2 years, that 24 months deal. So we wouldn't hit the capital gains, and then we move on to the next one. But I really didn't understand that concept or get to that concept until I was sitting on a beach with my brother. This is when I was 49 years old. I was 57 a couple of days ago, and he said, have you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Nice.
Of course, everyone, the 10% all know that book. And and that was the change. That's where I started reaching out to people, understanding that concept, how your money needs to make money for you, not you make money for yourself. And from then on, that's when I started gravitating towards rentals. Like I said, I didn't even know I was doing the BRRRR method years ago, and I've already done it. And we had some rentals, but I went more into the rentals. And when I got to 50, I said at 55 I was going to retire from teaching, and I did exactly that. I had enough passive income that I could do that, and this is where we're at today.
Nice. And what are you doing for scaling now that you're retired and you're focused on real estate for the side? How are you focusing on scaling your real estate holdings?
So right now we're syndicating multifamily apartments anywhere between 15 to 50 units. We've kind of come down a little bit recently. And of course, the market, it's a challenge. It's challenging right now, but there's still deals to be made out there. So we syndicate. We're always looking for investors, and that's pretty much our plug is to help. The book is to help people, and I know I'm probably going to go down a road here, but it's mostly for those that become accredited investors and understand that once you become an accredited investor, now you've opened up the floodgates of investing. And a lot of people don't know that. I didn't even know that there was such a huge difference in that side of it. And I can get into that, or I can leave that for the book. That's
yeah. Here, I'll ask one more, and then I'll let Matt take over for a minute. So what was like a defining moment that you realized that instead of going out and attacking this, like from a kind of like, Matt and I have done the same thing over the years. It's like, okay, I'm going to buy a rental. I'm going to buy a duplex. I'm going to buy a sixplex, and trying to build your own personal portfolio, just the brute force method, saving up money, getting enough capital, maybe doing a BRRRR, but basically doing everything by yourself without involving other people's money. What was that transition like, where you had, how did you come to that realization that it was better to be a syndicator than it was just to be an investor, kind of following that same path that you had been following?
It's not actually the syndication part of it, but what the part that you're describing, I still know to this day, and it's in the book, where I was teaching, and I get this email about things that they're going to change. And and just a quick little background on my teaching. I taught construction, which I basically taught young high school kids how to be contractors and how to build homes. So we had electrical, plumbing, masonry, concrete, framing. We did all of that. And I got an email one day. Actually, it was during Christmas on our break, that they were going to change my program, and they wanted to change the schedule. And long story short, wasn't happy with that component of it. Everything was going good. It was working good. And they were, that was the time when, I think they still are, blue collar workers, or, the skills, instead of heading to, getting a skill position, they more or less wanted you to go to college. And I didn't like that idea. I wasn't behind that idea. So, I was sitting in my office one day, and all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. I'm like, man, am I having a heart attack? And I'm like, I'm not having a heart attack in front of my students. There's just no way. So I walk out, just kind of set beside outside the door, and kind of took some deep breaths, and it was just, anxiety. I think it was. Never had that before. I'm usually a pretty healthy person, and that was the key point where, yep, things need to change, and it needs to change now. And that's where I changed. And I started getting more in, trying to find more ways of creating passive income for myself and my family than just getting a W-2, every month or so.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the kind of like your criteria. 15 to 50 units is kind of on the small side for a standard syndication. Is that by intention, based upon the marketplace? Tell us about that.
Yes and no. We've had some bigger ones, but we just feel that right now that's a good range, 15 to 50. We're looking when we're looking to for our deal flow, we're looking for sellers that we can basically do the financing through them instead of having to deal with banks, because right now, interest rates are pretty high, and to get those numbers to work and to get what we feel that we want to give our investors, that's the number we've kind of come up with to help. So our investors that we have can trust that we're going to get those numbers, 4 or 5 years, with the whole part of it. So great question.
Yeah, I think that's smart, because there's a lot of people that have just been sort of sitting out on the sidelines playing golf, complaining about the bid-ask spreads being too wide with standards, your standard syndicators and sponsors out there that typically they will not touch anything below 100 units to 200 units. And there's all this actual transaction volume that's happening in the smaller deal space. And let's say exactly what you're talking about, the 15 to 50 units. And a lot of that deal space is not controlled by your Cushman Wakefields and CBREs and that sort of thing. It's more of like your mom and pop real estate brokers that do residential and also a little bit of commercial on the side and stuff like that. So that, and also in that deal space too, there's an incredible amount of collaboration that's happening, where I'm seeing for the first time in my 18-year career that buyers and sellers are collaborating together to give each other what they want in this environment where sort of a lot of things are sort of seized up from the flow of capital. And then also you're probably looking at smaller raises too, these bigger raises and I'm on the distribution list for a lot of other sponsors across the country. And I'm like seeing, this offering will go quick is the first email that comes out, webinar this Wednesday. And then they send another email the next week, another email at next week. And I can see, and I talk to them, and behind closed doors, they're like, yeah, it's really difficult to raise capital right now, especially when you're, dealing with raises that are, where you're having to raise $10 to $20 million for some of these larger deals. But if you're raising, let's say, 500,000 to let's say 2 million, it's definitely, there's a lot more movement happening in that space. What say you?
And jumping on that, the reason for the 15 to 50, and like you just mentioned, it's a lower raise, which a lot of investors, because of some negative things that have come out over the last few years on syndications and people raising money and money going to where it shouldn't be going, which is anything, but with that said, we're looking at more blue collar workers. They don't quite understand, they're still trying to figure out the whole investment side of it anyway. So they don't have, 150, 200, 250,000 just laying around they want to invest. Those are your accredited investors, which we talked about, which are great, great. They're awesome to have when we need them. But in order to grow this and to get it to more scale, if we could get more investors in on a smaller amount, we have a couple right now that we have in 175,000. So which is still a good piece of the pie for most people. And, but we can build that, there's other ways that we can help with understanding financing, and not just necessarily if they can't get into one of our deals, we can get them to a point where, hey, this is what you can do to start getting there, and maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, now you can start investing. You can start from there. It's not a rabbit. You're not going to fly down the road and make millions of dollars in 2 years. It doesn't happen that way. We all know that.
Yeah.
It's the tortoise. It's a slow and steady and understanding. And it's this, you got to have a mindset. If you don't have the mindset on the financial part of it, it's never going to get there. So I hope I didn't go I hope I answered that question the best I could there on that one.
Yeah. Why don't we jump into like investor relations? What are you doing as part of your business and your workflow for, finding investors, talking to them, keeping them up to date on what's going on, and then getting them to commit funds?
Podcast. Emails, reaching out, calling, making connections, getting out and seeing people, newsletters that we have out there, our web pages, anything that we can connect. We want to build our trust. We want people to understand that even if you don't go with us, if we know of someone that that your goal is a little better or not quite what we're looking for, but you have something different, we can reach out and find that for them. We're not afraid to do that. We're not afraid. We're not just going to throw you off the side and do that. So we're really wanting to just connect with people and let them understand that, our ability and our knowledge that we have on the construction side of it. My partner, he's an underwriter, completely understands that part of the numbers and how we can sit down and talk about, and get those and tear those apart if you want to. Or some people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear that, what am I going to make, in 3 to 4 years? And we can do that. And why, what we're doing. So a lot of value add. 15 to 50 is kind of a minimum volume ad. We can get in there and get out. And the asset, we have the property management team. We have the asset management team. So we've got everything that you pretty much need. And it's just getting that more of the deal flow and investors to come in and we just want to prove ourselves to them.
Yeah. Given the lower acquisition costs for these 10 to 50 units, are you also reducing your minimum investment? I know a lot of syndicators, they say like 50,000 is kind of their threshold where they don't really want to go below that. Have you found that because you're doing a smaller deal, you're willing to accept smaller minimum?
That's where we start. When we start talking to one-on-one, we'll make that decision. And if we feel that it's a solid number, but we like to say 50,000 is the minimum. If people really want to do it and we've went over their numbers to see, we don't want them to put in that last 50,000 that they own. That's not fair to us. It's not fair to them because it's going to be tough on them because they're going to be wanting, and things happen. Things do happen, and who knows what's going to happen here. The next few months, especially. Yeah. But most of the time, we'll work with them, and if it's a point where it's not all their money and they want to put some in, we'll find a way to do it, or we'll bring in a couple other smaller investors. We can do that. We can create an LLC between 2 or 3 other people and do that. But I mean, it's a lot of work, but we want to get them started. That's what the book's about. The book is to help people understand, to get there outside the box.
Geographically, are you doing business in California? Are you back in Ohio where you started, or are you kind of finding sweet spots in other parts of the country?
Well, I'm going to be nice because I am in California, so I love Southern California, and I love the weather. But no, we're investing. We're in Phoenix, we're in Columbus. We're working on Columbus, Cincinnati, maybe even the Toledo area, but mostly the Ohio area, and the Phoenix is where we're more or less at. But we're in Kansas City too. We have a couple of deals that we're doing right now in Kansas City, which is, man, any place in the Midwest is crazy. I mean, it blows my mind that how many people are moving, which is great. I love the Midwest. It's a great place. But it's growing. I mean, it's growing because there's plenty places to grow, and there's no ocean that stops you from growing. So. Mm-hmm.
What do you think the draw is in the Midwest? What do you think the primary draw for people going there?
And being from the Midwest and being out here in Southern California, it's obviously it's different for everybody, but it's probably the lifestyle. That's probably a big component of it. I mean, it's crowded. It's crowded out here. I'm not a big fan of driving. That's why, I mean, I was driving, 45 minutes to an hour. It's 15 miles that it'd take me to get to school one way. And, it takes a toll. It really takes a toll. I mean, the other component I talk about in my book is the health component. And that's another thing I like to say. And that was obviously not necessarily killing me, but it was a hard part. But I think the Midwest is probably a little calmer. Pricing is much lower. Your dollar is going to go a little farther, not much, but there's some places out here. Like I said, I got to tell everybody out here, Southern California, you're paying the sunshine tax. So if you want to do that, you'll be happy.
Matt and I are paying the cloudy skies tax.
What are you talking about? We're not paying any taxes, man. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not paying taxes. So so Phoenix, but not Florida. Okay. A lot of times you see sponsors that are like, oh, we're looking in Phoenix, we're looking in Florida. Why not Florida?
Weather.
Okay.
Phoenix, there is absolutely zero weather. I mean, the sun's out. You might get a rainstorm here and there, but you're not getting a hurricane. You're not getting tornadoes. You're not getting huge windstorms. I mean, just that part of it. Now that I say that because we're in Ohio, but and Phoenix is growing. People from California are moving to Phoenix. The snowbirds are staying. They're not going back. They're staying in Tucson is another. We actually have a deal right now in Tucson that we've been raising money on. So I can't. They're both 506D, so I can't really talk about them. But if you're interested, give me a call. But yeah, it's just growing. Tucson is on its way up. So it's, to me, and insurance obviously is not a. I think Florida's going to be a good place. I mean, it still is, but I think it's going to turn around. Your money is going to start turning around probably about another year. That's what they're saying, is where you're going to go back to getting those solid deals. And when people realize that, insurance tripled in Florida. I mean, it's crazy. That's a huge. I mean, people don't. Who would have known that? That's a huge hit. So, but it'll pass.
And prices are high even without triple insurance. Like I went down last year and did some exploring, and it's just nothing I saw penciled.
And I look at that and I think it's the same thing out here. I see people investing out here in Southern California, and I mean it's a great investment because I mean in 3 years your money goes up in price drastically. I mean so fast. I mean that's why it was such a great job to flip during the years we were doing it. But right now, who knows what's going to happen? You don't want to be caught, in $1 million house and then you can't sell it. I mean, you'll eventually sell it. You can rent it out. You'll have money, but that's anything.
So how about this? Why Ohio? I know there's a lot of syndicators that are really going crazy with Ohio. What happened to make Ohio such a popular place for syndications?
Well, I'm a Buckeye, so I have to stay with my roots, man.
Well, I mean, you know it well, so I'm sure you're crushing it over there. But I know there's a lot of other operators that aren't even from Ohio that are really focused on building syndications portfolios out there.
People are moving there. A lot of your manufacturing are moving there. They're coming back. I think Detroit is going to be booming in about 2 to 3 years. People, you drive there, it's like, still empty places, but come on, if Kansas City's booming, I mean, Detroit at one time was a huge part of the economy in the U.S. And it's all cycle. It all it's a circle, but Columbus is huge because it's got plenty of places to grow. The weather actually is not bad. You don't get a real harsh winter. Cincinnati, you're right on the river. Toledo, you're not far from Detroit. The home prices are solid, and they're making decent money. So you can get through the winter. I love to hear people say from out here that they moved moved out there, and like, have you been through a winter? No, it can't be that bad. I mean, I don't think so. It's just, like I said, I mean, right now I'm looking outside and it's 75 degrees and sunny. So, but
Yeah,
Columbus, Ohio's the best.
Yeah, I asked about your take on Florida, just because I don't know. There's been a lot of people that have been bullish on Florida, and this is kind of like my prediction is that, oh, there's so many people moving down to Florida. Well, a lot of people that I see moving down to Florida, yes, there are some young people, some of my friends and that sort of thing, but there's a lot of baby boomers that have moved down to Florida and are moving down to Florida. And my question is, like, what happens when the baby boomers die or need somebody to take care of them? Because I just don't see that net migration of people that are having families move down to Florida. And that's why I'm just like, I'm not really buying into the whole like Florida story.
And I wish we did have a crystal ball. Obviously it'd be awesome. But I remember growing up in Ohio, and not every spring break. When we had the business, Dad would actually take the concrete truck was unique because it was a different type of truck where we could take off the unit, put a dumpster on it, and he'd head down to Florida. This is 30 years ago, around Sarasota and Fort Lauderdale, and they were building. He would bring dirt back and forth and make money during the winter down there. So we go down there for the week to visit, and everybody went down there. Once again, the snowbirds went down there, but they went back up to Ohio. But you don't see that much anymore. And that you make a great point on the generations. And I read an article the other day about what people aren't, and I actually didn't look at this either, is that the baby boomers and shoot, I can't think of the baby boomers and the millennials. They're part of that baby. They're probably part of the baby boomers. So those baby boomers that are passed away, well, who's going to get that money? So they're gonna have some money, and now where they put it is a whole nother story. Like you said, are they going to stay in Florida? I don't know. I mean, that's a huge question because to me, man, that's a lot of money that's being moved from one to another. And if they're not educated on the financial side, where's it going to go? Is it just going to go waste it and spend money? I doubt it. I mean, not a lot of them, but so that's we like to talk to millennials because we know they need the help on that part of it. So and the baby boomers, I mean, they're one of our other projects is acquiring businesses, and they're the ones we talk to. I talk to a lot of. They want to get out, and they didn't even realize they can sell their business. So
yeah. That's going to be a huge opportunity. My father's in that club. He's going to be looking for a buyer on his business, but he doesn't know where to start. And, he's basically hasn't really groomed somebody to take over his position. So anybody that would be interested in buying it would have to fill that gap and all that knowledge. And I think it's tough. They're kind of like mom and pop business owners.
Well, your dad has been very... Yeah, your dad's been very involved with the business too.
Yeah, he can still go away. They'll go down to the Bahamas. They're quasi-retired, but a lot of the things that somebody buying the business would need are just in his brain alone, and they're not. He hasn't really given them up to anybody else. He likes control.
That's that generational traditions.
Yeah,
that's part of that, and unfortunately, it can actually hurt in the long run.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I remember I used to ask my dad, well, why do we? Because I used to actually work under my dad. My first, real job was as a real estate agent back in 2006, and I'd asked and I was helping my dad, And I would ask him like, "Hey Dad, why do we do it this way?" He's like, "Don't ask me questions, son. Like, just do as I say." I was like, "Yeah, but I want to understand, you know?"
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I love. I mean, obviously, I love my father. He's the best, one of the best guys ever. And yeah, same thing. And I would always, my mind would think, how can we do this better? How can I? And that's one of the things that I'm really good at, is how to be more productive, and how to make things that can be better and faster, which goes back to acquiring businesses and, making them, like you were saying, your dad, he probably does have, up in his head, but there's definitely nowadays when I hear people talk about acquiring businesses and all they have to do is a few things, and they obviously, they're buying businesses that are still making money, but they can make that money even better, because just a little couple changes here and there, and you're golden. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that's so true.
Yeah.
Stubbornness. That's part of my book.
And I think part of it for him is, it's relationships. It's all these relationships he's built over the last 50 years, and he likes maintaining those relationships. He's friends with those people. So they'll call and they'll say, "Hey, I need some loads delivered. I need this. I need that." He likes doing that part of the job. So for him, I think it's more like that's what he enjoys. Why would he give it up? He doesn't realize that, like, if there's not a mechanism in order to bring the business in, get the business situated, and move the trucks down the road, there really is no business. You can't just keep that in your head and not train it,
Yeah,
or not systematize it.
but you could actually, because he can still be part of it, and he could take off. And if there's a call they wanted to talk to him, then the call will go directly to him, and he can make those conversations. And then on the backside, everything else is getting done by other people, and then that frees him up a lot more time also, which is another component to the book, is I never realized that if you had other people do your work, you could be so much faster.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the book. In my book, right, I use the gardener as an example, and it's just, I mean, it's phenomenal. So
yeah, but I think, like, his generation, there's no CRM, there's no email marketing, there's no newsletter, there's none of that. There's definitely like you got to pull teeth to get him to come on the podcast, and then even then he's just doing it to kind of like appease his son.
But don't get me wrong. There's still many things you can learn from.
Oh yeah,
from people,
for sure.
from people that have been there. So
absolutely, yeah.
So Kent, on the subject of we're talking about systems here and emails and that sort of thing. I mean, your avatar, let's say, of an investor or investment partner is a blue collar person, right? So one of the things that's a big challenge is, like, how do you take, what's your strategy or order of operations for how to take somebody out there that's out there in the ether, that is like the ideal, like, dream and like an investment partner for you, that's completely cold, and kind of like bringing them closer into your sphere and like warming them up, because it can be a difficult, I just know, like, a lot of blue collar people I know, they don't have, they don't really use social media as much as other people do, all that stuff. So how do you start to, capture their attention, like, in sort of the attention economy? I know the book can definitely help with that, but like, what kind of walk us through that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I just finished up at our SOP on social marketing for that purpose, because like I said, the book just blew me away, for, first of all, that it was even going to do this. And you're right. How do that's one of the issues. How do you address a blue collar worker, when they're probably not even on social media? Mm-hmm. Well, guess who else is on social media? The other spouse, the kids. Mm-hmm. And they're probably the ones controlling the money anyways. So where we're at right now is, we're flooding social media, YouTube, LinkedIn. We have our own Facebook group called Beyond the Tool Belt. So if you guys want to look into that, you can do that. And I've been working on putting things in there, kind of talking about the book. but most of it is reaching out. We've done some Facebook ads that we give out the book for free on a PDF. And then that obviously goes into our CRM, and then we go back, and we have a funnel that takes care of most of that. And then eventually I'll write, I have a personal email that will go out to them about, a couple weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks later, just see if, hey, you want to have a conversation, you want to talk, what did you learn? Just anything that kind of, did you read the book? What do you want to talk about? And it's hard. It's hard to make that, to get them to do that, because there's and I was exactly the same way, which is one of the whys. Is like, man, let it go. Just ask people how they're doing it. Don't be jealous. I was so jealous of rich people. I mean, I hated them because they're rich, and I was always told that they only made their money by they inherited it, or they won the lottery, and I don't remember what the third one was. I blocked it out of my mind nowadays. But then I finally realized, wait a minute. The reason why I call them wealthy now. The reason why they're wealthy, and I need to go talk to them, and they need to tell me how they did it. And that's if you could just get outside that box and don't be afraid to talk about money. I mean, people are poor, people are wealthy. Who cares? You can. It's your choice.
Yeah.
It's that mindset, and I'm sorry, I digressed on that one, but yeah, the CRM, the funnels is what we mostly, work on. But getting that connection is, and I knew it was going to be tough. I mean, really, Kent, you're the people you want to reach are blue collar workers, but you want to know something? There's a ton of wealthy blue collar workers, and most of them are they're owners. They're people that are PM project managers and things like that. And that's the other thing that I'm working on, is we need to redefine blue collar. Totally changed. It's nothing like it was, when you came in with your coveralls with your blue collar, and you were on the floor, and the white collars were up in the window watching. Totally different.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you, I'm going to tell my kid, get in as a blue collar, you'll probably make tons and tons of money, because there's a shortage of, skilled business people that understand how blue collar operates. So you get in, you learn the trade, but then, you maybe become a white collar through being a blue collar, because there's a need. You can't find vendors for just about any kind of real estate trade that you need to do without, paying through the nose.
And that's another, that's, yes, a great way to look at that. And that's what when I was teaching, they would bring the 8th graders through which we out here, they call CTE, which is career technical education. Other states have different things, but they'll bring the 8th graders through and walk them through all of our programs that we had. And the one thing I would leave them with, I would tell them, I would say, okay, here's your homework. And of course, and I'm like, it's real simple. I said, I just want to let you know that plumbers make more than doctors. They were just floored when they heard that, because, in the first 10 years they do, because doctors, they're getting their education. And I mean, we still need doctors, don't get me wrong, but that's the one thing, it's hard to get through to people's mindset, and it's working. It's slowly coming around. I'm seeing more of it, but industry needs to be more effective too. They need to reach out more and let people know and understand that that needs to be done. Mike Rowe does a fantastic job. I love your guys' podcast, but I'd love to get on his too.
So Kent, any plans of turning it into an audiobook?
Yep, I've looked into it. I've worked on it. Everyone tells me that do this, do that. So it's just sitting down, and I guess there's an AI that does it now. I mean, so I don't know. I haven't.
Oh God, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I want to read it myself, but they say it just takes so much time and it's long. But I mean, I'll see. But yeah, yes, for blue collar workers, they would definitely rather listen than read for sure.
And
but I made it easy to read. It's not difficult to read.
Yeah, a lot of people like to put it on as they're going to bed. Like that's one of my things. Like I'll listen to a couple chapters. I'll set the auto timer just to turn off after like half hour to an hour. And I think you're going to connect with your avatar better if you're the one reading it. So whenever I'm listening to a book, if it's narrated by the author, it's just so much more enjoyable than having somebody else narrate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the reason why I'm thinking of here is because we've managed a lot of rehab projects, worked with, and not all blue collar people are construction people. There's tons of different blue collar people that are, that are in different trades and skills and all that stuff. But having been involved with a lot of rehabs and large construction projects, there's one thing that is always a common item that is at any construction job site, and it's a radio. And so, or guys that are going out there, basically skimming drywall and that sort of thing with their headphones in, right? So I'm just thinking that that would be like a great way. And then the thing is that they're probably never going to buy it themselves. But if they said, like, if they had a family member, let's say, like, hey, check this out. Like, this is a book that was written specifically for you, for instance, from a guy that is, was sitting exactly where you are. And I think that with the audiobook, you already did the heavy lifting already in terms of writing an actual book. It's like, if you just like, all right, I got to book a time in a studio and like break it out in terms of like, okay, if I can stand to do this for an hour at a time or something like that, and then just break it out over like a week with like pre-scheduled things in there. And then you have like your chapters, and then like, boom, you just upload it to like Buzzsprout. You can do it on a, basically podcast, or actually like an audio book that you could have with a basically CT call to action or something like that to get those people into your ecosystem and that sort of thing. So, cause this is just like, I'm like, every walking through this, I'm just like racking my brain is like, how could I like be more effective at like connecting to that really difficult to connect to audience? Cause it's very easy to connect to millennials and Gen Zs. Absolutely. Very, very easy.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I've kind of been. And it's not like I don't have time. I mean, I'm retired, so.
I like that Audible has the credits. So, as I log into my Audible account, I'll usually have my credits used up, but maybe I haven't been listening to something in a couple months. I'll log in. I'll be like, oh, I got 3 credits on my Audible. That's when I'll go and I'll kind of explore and grab a couple things that I might not normally grab. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Audible.
And I actually was, when I was driving, for the hour and a half, 2 hours a day. But now I listen to a little bit, but I like a lot of reading. So I love to read. So which I hated when I was in high school, when I was in school. It's crazy. Yeah. It's just mind-boggling, actually.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Kent?
Well, actually, we're say too much, but we're thinking about starting we're looking into another business on getting a couple of JV people together, partnering, and in a certain area of the country, and doing some work. So that's what we're working on right now. But we're still working on deal flow. We've got two deals that we're raising for. Tucson and Kansas City, and so that's what we're kind of working on that. And so reach out if you're interested. And spending time with my family, my kids and my wife, because my wife's a teacher. Also, she's also a life coach too, which helps me a lot.
Nice.
And yeah. And my boy's a senior. He's going to be a senior this year, and he's a big time football player. So we're going to spend some time this summer. He just got his became an Eagle Scout, so that was pretty cool on that end. And so we're just going to spend some time with family, spend time together this summer and enjoy, and which is that's part of the why, man.
That's right.
You got to do it. You got to do it, man.
What are you finding for deal flow as your best source? Are you brokers, just going on LoopNet and CoStar and looking, or how are you finding stuff?
Crazy about, you mentioned LoopNet, and I mean, 2-3 years ago it was dead. I mean, that was dead.
Yeah.
But man, I've been talking to some people. We found a couple deals. We didn't close on them, but yeah, they're starting to, they're popping up more. But we're focused on the seller. We wanna kind of hit the seller, the mom and pops, and see if they're interested. We're not, we don't throw an offer at them first thing. We we want to get to know them and see what they need, what would help them. We want to help them. We want to get you on that beach, and you can sit there on the beach and make money, and we take care, basically we're taking care of your part. So, because and what we're finding out, a lot of those mom and pops are graduating to the, off the earth, and they're going on, and their kids don't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we're trying to, we're trying to help them. We like to, get in contact with them and let them know what we can do to help them. So a lot of things going on. Just, trying to.
Are you doing cold calls? Are you doing direct mail? Like what do you think the best bet, if somebody had a couple bucks to throw at marketing to find their avatar, what would you say? What's the first place you'd spend your money on?
CRM.
Okay, let's say you got the CRM and you need people coming into the CRM. What's your best source for getting people into your CRM?
You can do the mailers. It's tough. We're working on a system where finding either people who have done bridge loans the last few years,
okay,
or mom and pops between our buy box, and if they own the property outright, because we can, there's things we can do to get that information. Then we're mailing out to those, either finding an email, and getting that information. We want to go direct. We've done the mailers. I mean, it's still decent to do, but it's just not. It just seems like mom and pops, they like the personal touch, which I love too. I mean, I want to be. I mean, I want to talk to them. So
right.
That's what I mean. That's the thing.
Yeah, the white glove experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So.
Matt, you got a follow up?
Yeah, no, yeah. The direct mail is tough. I found that I've experimented with a lot of direct mail. I used to be a direct mail fiend when it came to when I was acquiring, single. Well, I've never acquired really any single family properties, but like two, 3, 4 family type of properties, and I would send out 1,000 pieces and then get like 3 deals out of it. Right, so really, really effective. But then when I started prospecting for commercial properties, I would spend like $2,000 on a direct mail campaign and literally get nothing out of it. So I'd been experimented with postcards and that sort of thing, and I found that the best method for it is like something that is that looks like a handwritten note. We've used yellow letter HQ before, and this is definitely effective in that sort of like 50 units or less space where your Cushman Wakefield CBRE people, like your national brokerages, just they won't even touch that deal space, and getting in front of them in a very, very indirect kind of personal way, instead of like do you want to sell your property? If so, I'd be interested in buying it. Is way too direct, because they probably have not, there's that whole adage, like no pain, no sale. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like if they're not in pain on it, then why would they be motivated to sell it? But it's being that, like, getting that entered into the relationship and on their radar, and then nurturing that relationship over time. So it has been really effective, but it's a long life cycle from, when first contact is made till you're like getting the keys on a property. But even in the educational process of those people that own the properties outright, or even, I put together a deal where a seller is taking back a second mortgage for $100,000 to, at 0% interest, 0 payments for 5 years, so that we can give them the price that they want. We can get a, blend the cost of capital stack down, and then also, then make, basically, and then pay them off once we've executed a value add strategy on a thing there. And that's something that is, and it helps them defer a little bit of capital gains and that type of thing. But those conversations kind of have to happen like early on.
Matt, what is your messaging like for that? Like what, you have a different message, obviously, because you're not going for the sale right off the rip. What does your message sound like?
I use another reference to date myself, the Iron Sheik. I come at them humble. All right. Mm-hmm. So, I approach it with, I'm sorry if this message is unwelcome to you. But I was driving around town with my partner, and I saw your property, and it looks like it's something exactly like we'd want to purchase within the next 12 months. I know this is a huge shot in the dark. You're probably not interested in selling, but I'd at least like to be able to talk to you and have a conversation with you about the property, like that sort of thing. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So like super indirect, whereas like a lot of these like wholesalers and people in residential space are a lot more like direct. They're used to like targeting little old ladies that can't keep up with their house anymore. And they're like, I'll buy your property, all cash, no realtors commissions, like all that sort of thing. And these people, I mean, they have an origin story with their property. And also I think they're almost like kind of a lot of the ones that I've talked to are like emotionally attached to the property too, because it's become a part of their life. Yeah. A lot of these owner operators, mom and pops, like they don't have a property manager. They are the property manager. They show the apartments, and it's kind of like a part of their identity, and you buying it is sort of like is like stripping that identity away from them.
Absolutely.
That's a great point, and that's why it's like Mark was mentioning, that white glove component where you can get to them face to face and let them know, hey, you can still be part of this. You can still be part of it, but here we're going to take all this away from you. You don't have to worry about it, but you can have this. So and I don't think a lot of and I honestly don't think a lot of owners understand. They don't know that. They just, because all they've seen is the mailers. Hey, we'll pay. Here's what we're going to give you. Well, that ain't, no way. Throw that out of here. So so they have that mindset. Once again, so it's the, oh my God, it's just so education is what the whole part of it. So yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour. I don't know if you got any final thoughts for the audience, or Matt, if you got any final questions.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean that.
Oh no, go ahead, Ken. This is the challenge of having a three-way on it. So we'll just deal with it.
I just, like I said, the biggest reason the book came out was to help people understand there's more to investing than just the stock market in your 401k. And don't be afraid to reach out. It doesn't have to be me. There's other people that are doing this too. Reach out and just have a conversation to see what else is out there. And be aware of, do your due diligence. That's the big thing that I suggest is you got to understand. And if you don't know what your due diligence is, well, that's where this comes in.
Right. Yeah.
So beyond the tool belt.
Beyond the tool belt.
Yes. So, but
awesome.
Thanks for both of you guys for having me on. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah. We love finding fellow misfits of real estate, bringing them on, and we'd definitely love to have you back on in the future. Maybe after your sequel book comes out. I'm not sure what that one's going to be called, but I'm sure it'll be good. And thanks to everybody in the audience that's listening to us. Of course, if you got questions, feel free to ask them. We'll post all Kent's contact information so you can get a hold of him. And we'll see you again next week, Thursday at 2.
All right. Awesome. See you in the green room, Kent.
Yeah, in the green room. Love it.